My husband, who'd always refused to take me on the annual family trip, suddenly wanted me to come along, so I booked a ticket to see what was really going on. Turns out, I was only invited as a free nanny and cook. Oh boy, they never saw this coming on their flight back home. I was very upset, and I got into a huge fight with Ryan because I wanted him not to go on the trip as well if I couldn't go, because I thought that his parents were being very unfair to me. Earlier, they had told me that they would try to include me in things and get to know me, which is why I had tried so hard to build a relationship with them. And now, they were acting as if I was the one who was bothering them. I found that very insulting, and I tried to tell Ryan that this was not the way to behave with me, and I did not appreciate the way his parents were acting. But he told me that this annual trip was very important to him so that he could spend time with his family and would have loved to take me with him, but his parents did not want that, and he couldn't argue with them. He said that apparently he could see both sides, which was ridiculous because I don't think that his parents have a point here, and I think that they are just being fickle-minded and are making me seem like the bad guy just for trying to get along with them. If they did not want me coming along with them, they should have just said that instead of coming up with arbitrary reasons. Anyway, we got into a big fight, and I told him that I would not like him to go on the trip and I wanted him to take a stand for me, but he said that I was being silly and petty and went on the trip anyway. After he left on the trip, I was very disappointed by the way that I was being treated in this family, because I had really always tried my best to be there for everybody and become a part of this family. My own parents have never been very connected with me, and when I met my in-laws, I thought that maybe these people would like me better. Even now, my parents and I don't really talk much, but the relationship that Ryan had with his family, I envy that, and I wanted to be a part of that, so I don't think it was wrong for me to try and get them to like me. I might have gone a bit overboard in trying to do that, but that was only because they themselves had said that they would try to make me feel like I was more of a part of the family. And I had also noticed the difference in the way that my sister-in-law's husband and I were treated. I just wanted to be loved by these people. I don't think I was wrong for trying that. These were the thoughts that kept running in my head on repeat, and I just kept feeling bad for myself because at that point, I felt like Ryan did not care about me either. And I could still forgive his family for treating me badly, but I could not forgive him, and I had half a mind to leave before he came back from his trip. 2 days after he left, he called me up, and I was pretty surprised when he called me. I did not answer the phone the first time because I was very pissed with him, but then he texted me and told me that it was an emergency and it was necessary for me to answer. So after that, he FaceTimed me, and to my surprise, his entire family was with him, his parents, his sister, his brother-in-law, everybody was standing behind him, and all of them looked really nervous to talk to me. I did not understand what was going on, and when I asked him to talk to me, he told me that everybody was there to apologize to me, so that was a pleasant surprise. He also told me that he had spoken to his parents about the things I had said and the fact that he had danced around the issue. So now, the two of them had realized that they had been wrong and wanted to make it up to me by inviting me along for the rest of the trip. His parents spoke to me as well and told me that Ryan had spoken to them and they had realized that the way that I was being treated was quite unfair, and they were ashamed of the way that they acted because they had been entirely selfish and hadn't even given a thought to how I would be feeling about all of this. They made the apologies seem so heartfelt, and my mother-in-law even shed a tear or two and told me that Ryan had told them that I had only been trying to get them to like me and they had been very selfish and inconsiderate. They wanted to make it up to me by inviting me along for the rest of the trip, and they would be heartbroken if I did not accept that invitation. They said they would understand if I declined, but they really wanted me to be a part of it. On the call, I was pretty confused because I had felt insulted earlier, but on the other hand, I believed in second chances and I really loved Ryan. I wanted to make it work with him, so I told him that I would think about it. In the evening, I told him that I was ready to join them. I thought about it, and I believe that everybody deserves a second chance, so I got my flight tickets and flew down to them. They were there to receive me at the airport, and we drove to an Airbnb, which was very confusing for me because I had assumed that they would be staying in a hotel since all of us were pretty well off. But the place they were living in was far removed from the hustle of the city, and the area was pretty secluded. They told me that there were no hotels that had empty rooms nearby and the ones that were around were not good enough, so they had to go with an Airbnb. It was close to the beach but quite far away from everything else, and it was in a pretty nice spot if you really think about it. Unfortunately, the only downside was that they had to do everything for themselves, and I don't think anybody in my husband's family is used to doing that, not even Ryan. I'm used to being independent because whenever I was younger, my parents were not really home most of the time, so I would end up having to do everything for myself, right from the cooking to my own laundry. And even as I grew up, I made it a habit, so while we do have a housekeeper now, I still prefer doing certain things on my own. Ryan, however, grew up in a house where they constantly had people for everything they wanted done, and the Airbnb did not have any housekeeping services or any room service, so they had to cook and clean up after themselves. Even though the trip was just for 8 days, they did not like the idea of that. Once I was there, they started delegating all those jobs to me, but they were doing it in a really subtle way so that I wouldn't guess what they were up to. Unfortunately for them, I'm not stupid. I might be a people pleaser, but I'm not going to just forget about my respect and dignity and be their unpaid nanny and cook. As soon as they got there, they complained about how there was nobody to do anything for them. All the hotels were booked as well, so they couldn't even move, and they were really annoyed with this whole thing because apparently everybody was too tired and they were supposed to be on holiday, so it was not fair that they had to do everything for themselves. I could understand what they were trying to hint at, and then they started trying to delegate all the work to me and pretended like they were going to help me out as well, but said that since I was apparently the best at all of this, they were looking forward to having me around. And then they made the mistake of saying that the next morning, they would be leaving for a bit of sightseeing and requested that I stay with my sister-in-law's kids. That's when I lost it because I had realized what was going on. It was pretty late at night, and they had already told me that there were no hotels nearby that were not completely booked, but I still told them that if this was the real reason that they had invited me to join them on the trip, then I was better off staying at home. They tried to calm me down and said that they did not intend to insult me, but I could understand what was going on and that they only wanted me around as a free nanny and cook, and I was not going to tolerate that. So I told them that I would either be here as part of the family or I would leave. After that, they were forced to admit that they had initially only invited me with the intention of having someone extra so that at least my sister-in-law's children would have somebody to be with them since their nanny had fallen and could not join them on the trip. It was apparently my mother-in-law's idea, which was a unique brand of disrespect. I was very upset when I found out the real reason they had invited me, and it completely negated their apology. But my in-laws insisted that they had meant every word of what they had said. They told me that they would be devastated if I left because they really wanted me to be there with them for the rest of the vacation as well, and it did not even matter if I did not want to help them out with chores. And as a way to make it up to me, they would do it themselves, and I could just unwind and relax. So after a bit of apologizing and pleading from their end, I decided to stay as long as they did not ask me to do anything, and that way I would get a free vacation out of this. And I already made up my mind that I was going to get back at them for even assuming that I would tolerate this level of disrespect, and I had a plan for when we would be coming back home. I spent the rest of the vacation doing nothing. They did all the work around the house because they had to compensate for the way that they had behaved with me, and I just chilled in my room, taking my revenge.